So World Rugby are appealing the decision to rescind Owen Farrell's red card, which he picked up on the weekend in the game against Wales, where he was originally shown a yellow card and that was upgraded to a red card at the time of the game. Is everyone keeping up? Yeah, the circus goes on. It was all a little bit of a mess, but that's what I'm talking about in this video. World Rugby are appealing that decision, which I think is the right thing. It's probably what they have to do, but is no guarantee that Owen Farrell will now serve a ban, something I'll get into in this video. You can have a comment down below, drop it in the comment section, your views on this, something which has had tongues in the rugby world wagging massively over the last few days. Pretty extraordinary, really, the reaction to this, but you can have a comment. Have your say in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Let's get into it. So this whole process now has become a bit of a circus, and that's actually something that Andy Farrell, the Ireland head coach and Owen Farrell's dad, said in his press conference previewing the game, the World Cup warm-up match between Ireland and England this weekend, where he admitted, obviously for him, as his dad, it's kind of hard for him to comment on it, but he said the circus surrounding this has been absolutely disgusting, which I think most of us can probably understand from a parent looking out for your son who's in the middle of this kind of storm at the moment. What I would say on that is we can all agree that abuse towards Owen Farrell in this situation is completely unacceptable. There are always idiots out there on social media who will use this as an opportunity to have a pop at him. But I think for most of us, this isn't about Owen Farrell. This isn't about the player. And I know some of you will have views on Owen Farrell as a player, whether you like him or not. Nothing I say on this matter is personal towards Owen Farrell. I think he's a brilliant rugby player. I think he's a very private bloke. I don't know him, and I think he's excellent at what he does, but he has an issue with his tackle technique. And the issue really that's being highlighted by this is the whole process surrounding rugby, the lack of clarity, how we stumble from one thing into the other. That's how this all feels to me. But Andy Farrell is right. This is a bit of a circus because this, I feel, just should have been so much more simple. This whole process in the way in which it has been dealt with in the first place. The appeal now to the appeal, if we can call it that, World Rugby appealing this decision, won't happen until next week. So England haven't selected Owen Farrell in their team this weekend. That'll be fascinating whether that is included in a ban or whether that can be counted as part of a ban if he is now to be banned. But the process is being dragged out. The furore around it will continue. And that's part of my issue with this is I think for World Rugby appealing this decision, a lot of this is about perception. I think that they have seen the reaction and they have kind of dragged their feet on making this appeal. And actually, if you go over to the Egg Chasers YouTube account, Tim over there did a really good video on this. I thought he spoke really eloquently on a whole range of issues, really. But one area that I disagree with him on, or not disagree with him because he didn't necessarily go into what would happen now, but one thing that I feel isn't a guarantee is the fact that Owen Farrell will be banned. But I'll get onto that in just a moment because a lot of this is about the perception of World Rugby. And I think they've seen that outcry and they are having to try and practice what they preach in terms of the spotlight on head injuries and head contacts and trying to get them out of the game. But I think that's kind of what's driving this appeal rather than the correct decisions. I don't know why they didn't appeal it earlier. That's something that Tim mentioned in his video. They have now released the full report, which is a 7-page report for those of you who are interested in reading it. I have read it, I'll be honest with you. It's not really that interesting. I think they had some different camera angles that they were able to use, which maybe that Hawkeye footage would have been able to show Jamie George impacting the contact area more than any of us could tell. I think most of us have probably looked at Jamie George's actions and can't quite understand how it impacted things enough to completely mitigate Owen Farrell's actions and for him to not be awarded a red card. But let me get on to why I think that this is potentially another can of worms that World Rugby have opened. And I said in my video the other day when I reacted to the news that Owen Farrell had got away with it, if you like, that World Rugby had to appeal it. And they did have to appeal it. I think they do have to do that. But I think it's because of the perception of them. And actually, the issue with this isn't a retrial. They have to have enough evidence, they have to have the burden of proof that the 3 Australian committee who overturned Owen Farrell's red card, they have to have enough proof that that was the wrong decision. And I believe from what I've seen elsewhere, their kind of main part of that is they are going to suggest that Owen Farrell was always going to be making an illegal tackle. Therefore, there is no option for mitigation in this case. Those of you who have kind of been following this a little while will remember that part of the reason they overturned the verdict was they said it became an illegal tackle because of the actions of Jamie George that changed the dynamic of Taine Basham. Therefore, Owen Farrell, who was actually in position before that to make a legal tackle and intending to make a legal tackle, his actions then resulted in it being a high tackle, and that's why it was worthy of a yellow card or whatever they mitigated it down for. So World Rugby have to be able to prove that isn't the case, that Owen Farrell was always going to make an illegal tackle. And I think that's going to be pretty tough to do, really, to fully overturn this decision. So I think there is a perfectly reasonable chance that Owen Farrell still won't serve a ban. That will lead to more outcry and all that sort of thing. But I think the big thing, really, the big takeaway from me in this situation is the whole process just seems a complete mess, really. It's convoluted, it's not transparent particularly, we don't get to see all the evidence, the report is delayed or the full written report is delayed in being released to the public. And it's kind of symptomatic, really, of rugby in a whole lot of ways. And it makes, for everyone else following the game and trying to understand the game, it makes it all pretty difficult, really. I think that was a big thing to do with the reaction is people just couldn't understand how that decision ultimately got made. So let's see what happens. The appeal will be next week. But as I say, I think there's no guarantee here that World Rugby will get this decision overturned. And if that isn't the case, then I suppose that I'll be doing another video on it because there'll still be a lot of outcry about it. And as I've said already, do go and check out Tim's video on egg chasers. That's well worth a watch as well. I'm going to be in France actually for a lot of the World Cup with Tim. So looking forward to that and collaborating on some different content. Should be good fun. Remember to have your say in the comments section down below. But remember, this isn't personal towards Owen Farrell. You might not like him as a rugby player. I personally think he's a very good rugby player that has some issues with his tackle technique and actually issues with his tackle technique in certain areas of the game. If you look at the one at the weekend, if you look at the one against Esterhuizen a few years ago against South Africa that he got away with on that occasion as well, it's when he's trying to affect change in those desperate moments of games. I think those are kind of the issues around him, but it's nothing personal towards Owen Farrell. And let's maybe leave that out of the comment section if we can. But do you agree with me? World Rugby and the processes within rugby, I think, are the issues that this is highlighting. You can have your say in the comment section. Like the video and most importantly, subscribe to the channel as well. I'll see you in the next one.